very interesting question. I have to word this carefully because Nick Saban gets a hold of this stuff sometimes. Steve says, in the playoff era, where do you rank this year's Alabama team among the other Alabama teams to make it? Is this year the worst team of the bunch? Tells you everything you need to know about Alabama. I think the data is incomplete here. If we are defining what Alabama currently is by the team we've seen so far this year, there were some hiccups against Texas A&M. There were some near stumbles against the likes of LSU and Florida. So, yes, if I'm defining the 2021 Alabama team as what we saw, let's just say the entire regular season, yeah. I mean, if this Bama team were to win a championship, certainly I would favor every other championship team over this one. Maybe not the 09 team because the style of football has changed. And I don't think you realize how good Bryce Young would be against 09 Alabama until you saw it. But that's another conversation for another day. But here's the point I'm trying to make. What if we watch Bama this Friday, tomorrow, and they just light Cincinnati up? Then they go to the playoff, and they win by 2 or 3 scores. And they kind of do, like if we talked about the other day, what Clemson did in 2018. They have some ups and downs, but then they get to the playoff, and they're just shot out of a cannon. Well, how do you define the 2021 team? Is it the team you saw in the playoff? The one that played at the highest level when it mattered the most? And that's why I say the data is incomplete right now. Because I don't know what we're going to see. I think they're going to win by double digits tomorrow. And listen, here's what's going to be really fun. What's going to be really fun is I think a majority of you can answer me if I'm wrong here. Tell me if I'm wrong. I'll just sense it. We're live. I can't actually see you, but I'll sense it. If Alabama and Georgia were to square off for the national championship, as soon as the final bell hits in tomorrow night's Orange Bowl, and we've got the matchup, if I were to ask you 5 seconds, give me a winner, I think a majority of you would pick Alabama. Maybe a super majority, I don't know. But that SEC championship would be so fresh in your minds. And then the point spread would come out. As we sit here today, if nothing huge changes tomorrow, and both those teams win, and it's Georgia-Bama in the championship game, what do you think the line would be? Because it's already available, if you know where to look. Georgia's going to be favored over Bama again. Not by 7, not by 6, but they will be favored over Alabama again. And that's going to be really fun. I don't think it'll be fun for a lot of you. I think a lot of you are rooting for Michigan and or Cincinnati. But if that matchup were to happen, it'd be really interesting because they may have that same old dynamic. I can assure you if Will Anderson thinks he's an underdog against Cincinnati, a G5 team that's toting 14 points from Vegas into this game, he will think it is literally him against the world and Neptune and Pluto, rest in peace, and everything else in the galaxy when it is them versus Georgia again. There's a lot of Clemson vibe to this year's Alabama team. Next up is Sean. This is the question I mentioned earlier on in the show. This one's kind of painful, kind of creative. It was good enough to get on the show. Sean said, let's say the NCAA offers you the title of college football commissioner on the condition that you implement some form of playoff expansion. What expansion format do you choose? Well, the first thing I want to do is I want to take another sip of the protein caffeine cocktail here. It's really good. So, Sean, I don't think the NCAA has the power to make me college football commissioner, nor do I want them handing me the scepter of college football commissioner. I would love to be elected as college football commissioner. And in a perfect world, you guys do that. Notice we don't live in a perfect world. This is no fairy tale world. Second Shawshank quote of the show. But if I were to get to define, how exactly did we word this? You get to be commissioner, but you have to implement some form of playoff expansion. Well, I would make it as minimal as possible. What I would do, and I'll tell you, so let me get my format, and then I'll tell you my thoughts. I would go to a 16 playoff, not 16, 6-team playoff, and I would give the first 2 buys. No auto bids, just the 6 highest ranked teams. Now, our buddies at College Football Nerds have floated this format out there. It's never going to happen. If we expand, we're going to 8 or 12, but I would much prefer as small a field as possible. I don't think this would be totally detrimental to the regular season. I prefer 4. You could force this pill down my throat, and I probably wouldn't regurgitate it. Very graphic. Here's what that would do. What that would do for the first time is there would be a premium placed on those 1 and 2 seeds because those teams would get first-round byes. And I also think that would give us an opportunity maybe to get home field factored in, and we could have on-campus playoff games, which should happen either way. I probably should whisper that. Orange Bowl's been taking really good care of me this week. But outside of that, I don't support any playoff expansion. But you could sell me, if you were really good, on a 6-team format where the top 2 seeds get a bye and there's no auto bid. See, a lot of people, when they float out the 6-team format, and I go, oh, that sounds cool, they say, in the very next breath, yeah, man. So you get it, right? Power 5 conference champs and a G5 auto bid. And then I say, I'm out. Bye. Auto bids are Satan's tool. And they sound so good until you realize, oh, they're not. Essentially what that does is it suggests it's impossible for 2 of the best 6 teams in the country to reside in the same conference. All conferences are imaginary lines on a map. I could have 4 of the top 6 teams in a division any given year. So, yeah, I don't support auto bids. That 6-team format, though, I don't think it'd be the worst thing in the world.